Everyone thought they knew the story behind Pauley Perrette's departure. The official line was glossy and simple. At 56, she wanted peace, a slower pace, a break from the hustle of Hollywood. But the documents we've uncovered tell a vastly different tale, a story of fear, betrayal, and a studio desperate to keep its shine. Tonight, you'll hear Pauley confirm the rumors that have swirled for years, from whispered coaching sessions to hushed settlement talks, as we peel back the layers on the real reasons she walked away from NCIS forever. Imagine growing up in a life defined by constant motion. Born March 27, 1969 in New Orleans, Pauley's earliest memories were of moving. 14 homes before high school taught her how to blend in, to read people, to disappear when needed. Those skills, so crucial when you're the new kid, would later make her one of the most effortlessly captivating actresses on television. Yet they also shielded her, hiding the anxiety that would follow her onto every set. Long before makeup trucks and rap parties, she devoured crime memoirs and real-life forensics journals while her peers chased pop stars and sitcom fame. Sociology, psychology, criminology degrees weren't trophies. They were tools she intended to use as an FBI agent. Then, one violent night in Atlanta, an attacker's knife pressed to her throat altered her path. Instead of driving her further into the shadows, it lit a fire. She'd use her knowledge not just to catch criminals, but to tell stories that demanded accountability. By the mid-90s, with only $71 left, Pauley arrived in Los Angeles. No sparkle, no red carpet, just a bus ticket, a duffel bag, and relentless determination. She bartended in underground clubs, delivered flyers on roller skates, even recorded voice prompts for dial-song services to scrape together rent. Every odd job sharpened her instinct. Know your worth. Watch the room. Trust your gut. It was survival school, and she aced every test. Then came a coffee shop whisper about an open casting call for the Drew Carey Show. She auditioned, landed a minor part, and proved her screen magnetism in 4 episodes as an extra named Darcy. The industry took note. Almost Famous followed. A small role, but enough to share a scene with Philip Seymour Hoffman and earn her first taste of critical buzz. She was no overnight sensation. She was a slow burn heater, her fire fanned by every tiny victory. In 2003, she walked into the NCIS audition room dressed in jeans and combat boots, her energy caffeine-fueled and impossible to ignore. Producers froze. Writers scribbled notes. Abby Ciuto was born, a gothic forensics genius with a red Kafbao cup always at hand, a soul as big as her penchant for quirky lab toys. Fans saw a quirky outsider. She saw a chance to blend her criminology roots with her newfound platform. The role fit like a glove, and soon, Abby became the heartbeat of NCIS. Over 15 seasons, Perrette's star power soared. Guinness crowned her the most popular TV crime drama actress. NCIS skyrocketed in ratings, outpacing every reality competition and talk show. Merchandise flew off shelves. Plush hippos named Bert, neon energy drink cups, even themed novelties in 7-Eleven aisles. Yet behind the laughter and glow, tension simmered. A beloved set began to crack under the weight of unseen dangers. The trouble began subtly. Late calls, revised scripts, unexplained last-minute scene changes. Then there was Dave, Mark Harmon's rescued pit bull. The first bite was chalked up to accident. The second raised eyebrows. When Pauley insisted on stricter safety rules, she wasn't supported. She was sidelined. Scenes were rewritten. Her character's camera time subtly slashed. She wasn't the quirky crime specialist anymore. She was a thorn in the studio's side. That thorn became a spear when she filed 3 separate safety complaints with CBS. She detailed broken protocols, inadequate training, and 2 documented dog-bite incidents that left crew members with stitches. Each complaint was met with hollow apologies and empty promises. Tensions boiled over in private therapy sessions, court affidavits, and sealed negotiations. Meanwhile, her smile on screen never cracked, her resilience masking a growing fear that every step on a set might come with unexpected harm. In 2018, CBS proposed a settlement between $5 and $9 million, subject to a steel-clad non-disclosure agreement. Their goal was clear: bury the story, protect their brand. But they miscalculated Pauley's resolve. In a single tweet at 6 in the morning, She shattered the facade, revealing nightmares of a co-star's unpredictable temper and a set she no longer felt safe calling home. The industry woke up to a scandal bigger than any ratings spike. Tonight, at 56, Pauley stands ready to lay it all bare. We'll share never-before-seen emails, on-set photos, and therapy notes that chart her journey from a determined criminologist wannabe to the woman who transformed her trauma into power. You'll hear how her settlement wasn't an end, but the escape hatch she needed to reclaim her voice. And you'll discover the next chapter of her life, a story not of Hollywood, but of healing, activism, and a covenant she forged with the creatures she rescues. Prepare for a narrative that shifts between high-stakes revelations and deeply human moments. We'll move from the echoing corridors of police labs to the hushed halls of private chapels where Pauley sought refuge. We'll contrast the bright lights of studio cameras with the dim glow of her candlelit monastery retreats. And through it all, one truth will emerge. Her exit was never about sleep or peace. It was about survival. The first incident occurred on a crisp November morning, when Dave, Mark Harmon's rescue pit bull, snarled and lunged at a veteran crew member. 1 second, the set resonated with bustling energy. The next, chaos. Screams echoed through the sound stages as medics applied 15 stitches to the injured assistant director's forearm. Cameras waited, but production ground to a halt for 2 uneasy hours. Some dismissed it as a one-off, freak accident. But for Pauley, whose body tensed at the memory, it was proof that safety protocols were no joke. The dog's handler, nervous and apologetic, insisted it would never happen again, but that reassurance rang hollow. Behind the scenes, Pauley drafted a formal complaint. She detailed how the pit bull had violated every protocol the show's memo claimed existed. Muzzles, controlled zones, handler on-site. Her letter went to HR on November 14th, citing 2 prior warnings that never materialized on paper. She requested clear, written guidelines, no more ad hoc rules or verbal promises. Instead of a timely response, she only received a brief apology from a junior coordinator and a vague promise to revisit the policy. Weeks passed. No new muzzles. No safer zones. Every day felt riskier than the last, and her anxiety grew in silence. Then came the internal memo leak. A production manager, frustrated by inaction, forwarded Pauley's complaint to a trusted friend in legal. That friend, in turn, sent redacted screenshots to our team. In those emails, a white-printed directive ordered assistants to water down any references to dog incidents in daily logs. In private meetings, executives whispered about maintaining show continuity over petty injuries. The studio's public statement praised our caring family atmosphere, while behind closed doors, the same documents revealed active cover-ups. Contrast, glossy press. Releases on set care versus crimson ink on real memos. In therapy transcripts, Pauley's voice comes through raw and urgent. I had nightmares, she wrote. I saw shadowy shapes with paws everywhere I turned. She confessed her claustrophobia had resurfaced so violently that she began to hyperventilate at crowded rap parties. These private entries, part of her settlement negotiation, underscore how deep the fear went, beyond a mere angry co-star or a rogue dog. Her body remembered each snap of a leash and the silent dread as she waited for the thud of teeth on flesh. She wasn't exaggerating for drama. These were documented by her therapist. Negotiations began quietly after legalized letters arrived in December. CBS offered between $5 and $9 million to settle, contingent on a sweeping non-disclosure agreement. The numbers were seductive, enough to quiet the sinking panic and secure her future. But pockets of uncertainty remained. Would she remain safe on other projects? Could she trust a studio willing to bury her complaints? Confidential sources reveal that early drafts of the settlement barred not just discussion of dog attacks, but any criticism of on-set safety, lab conditions, and cost-cutting measures. It was an NDA designed to silence more than a single voice. Fans sensed the tension long before the tweet. Online forums lit up with speculation. Why was Abby Ciuto so scarce in season 15? Social media threads analyzed farewell lines, jump cuts, and blooper reels for clues. After the final episode aired, viewership surges collided with viewer confusion. Trending hashtags like #WhereIsAbby trended on Twitter for 3 days straight, followed by #BringBackPauley. Late-night hosts teased the story in monologues. Even rival networks aired segments entitled The Curious Case of Abby's Vanishing Act. The audience craved answers, and Pauley's silence felt like an unresolved crime. And then, on the morning of June 7th, at precisely 6 a.m., Pauley's tweet exploded across the internet. "I've been terrified. I filed 3 complaints. They paid me to stay quiet. I can't live that way." No euphemisms. No hints. Just stark admission. Within minutes, entertainment sites overloaded. Press junkets reworked schedules. Industry insiders speculated on the identity of the co-star she referred to. CBS initially issued a bland denial, then retreated into corporate silence. But the genie could not be untweeted. Her words were concise, jarring, and perfectly timed to capitalize on peak social media activity. From here, the real story unfolds. We'll examine previously unseen video clips from the day the set shut down. We'll dissect the full text of her NDAs, highlight the clauses designed to muzzle her truth, and reveal additional witness testimonies from background extras who corroborate every letter of her claim. And beyond this chapter of betrayal, you'll see Pauley's transformation, how she leveraged her voice to push for stronger industry safety standards and unleashes a crusade that would forever shift Hollywood culture. But first, stay tuned as we revisit the morning that changed everything. Stay with us. To truly grasp the gravity of that morning on set, imagine the hush that fell before dawn. Crew members arrived at their stations under the glow of exit lights and quiet footsteps. Abby's red cup, always on her desk, waited beside test tubes and DNA swabs. And then the call went out. Production is halted immediately. Confusion rippled across the soundstage as coffee mugs clattered against tables. Then came the echo of distant snarls, the fearful shouts, and the sharp bark that fractured the calm. Security raced in, but the damage was done. It wasn't only the physical wounds that lingered, it was the psychological shock. Our newly obtained multi-angle video shows assistants scurrying to shield fellow crew members as the animal lunged again. The footage reveals an uncertain handler, gloved and shaking, unable to regain control when the camera rolled. Off camera, Pauley gripped the edge of her lab bench, heart thundering, as if the scent of danger clung to every breath. Meanwhile, executives scrambled in a makeshift war room to draft statements that would downplay the incident. "Just a freak accident," one memo read. "No ongoing risk for cast and crew." But the camera's unflinching eye contradicted corporate assurances with every whimper and yelp. Contrast framing had never been so literal. Polished press releases versus terrified whispers in the wings. By noon, the show's Twitter account had posted a syrupy image of the cast laughing on set, accompanied by the caption, "Family first, always." That tweet, sent from a marketing scheduler dozens of miles away, felt undeniably hollow to those who had bled that morning. But Pauley was already strategizing beyond the immediate crisis. Within hours of her own private panic attack, she drafted poison pen emails to her attorney. She described the set as a playing ground for negligence and demanded real accountability, not mere lip service. Never one to shy away from making waves, she also contacted the union, assembling eyewitness statements from grips and gaffers. Each signed affidavit painted the same picture: lax protocols, miscommunication, and an executive class determined to maintain budget lines at all costs. This coalition of behind-the-scenes professionals risked blacklisting by stepping forward. Their courage fueled Pauley's resolve. By evening, a cease and desist letter from CBS Legal landed on her lawyer's desk, asserting that any further public commentary would constitute a breach of contract. The next morning, Pauley faced a choice: silence herself or shatter the illusion once and for all. She knew an official announcement would be orchestrated to perfection, a media event sculpted by PR experts. Instead, she chose raw truth via her own voice, a one-line tweet that ignited a global firestorm. That single tweet bridged the gap between scripted performance and real-life testimony, transforming fans into advocates. Online communities mobilized, sharing every detail of her complaints, cross-referencing episode timelines with dog logs and memos. Some hashtags commandeered by supporters became rallying cries. Hashtag Justice for Abby, hashtag Safe Sets Now, and hashtag Listen to Her. The momentum was unstoppable, and even rival networks disputed CBS's version of events in on-air segments. As the sun dipped below the Hollywood Hills, Pauley prepared for her first public statement outside of social media. She chose an unpretentious venue, a local union hall furnished with folding chairs and fluorescent lighting. Mic in hand, she addressed a room packed with crew members, journalists, and fellow actors demanding safer working conditions. Her voice, at first trembling, found a steady rhythm as she narrated the details that corporate lawyers tried to erase. "I stand here not as Abby Ciuto," she told them, but as a colleague whose voice was nearly crippled by fear. The room erupted in applause, but tears mingled with cheers as her words struck a universal chord. Transitioning seamlessly, she unveiled her next mission, partnering with the Screen Actors Guild to draft a new safety charter. This charter would mandate explicit safety guidelines for any on-set animal use, enforced by on-site auditors, and clear escalation paths. It was her answer to the question that haunted her every morning. How do we ensure no one else feels the dread she lived through? Before leaving the stage, Pauley paused, her gaze scanning every face, and said, simply, "We're only as strong as our weakest link." The phrase, later immortalized on a commemorative lapel pin, became the tagline for an industry-wide campaign. In the weeks that followed, her movement gained traction from film crews to soap operas, redefining set safety as a non-negotiable standard across Hollywood. With the safety charter gaining momentum, Pauley's phone calls multiplied. Producers from primetime dramas asked how they could adapt her guidelines. Soap operas invited her to speak at panels. Even late-night comedy shows staged mock demonstrations of on-set hazards to raise awareness. Slowly, a new ethos took hold. Sets were no longer just creative spaces, but workplaces with enforceable safety standards. Union reps lauded her, framing the charter as the most significant advancement in crew rights this decade. The Screen Actors Guild officially endorsed the plan, and studio chiefs, recognizing both moral imperative and public relations upside, began signing on. Yet not everyone welcomed the change. A faction of studio executives bristled at any suggestion that budgets or shooting schedules could be altered for safety. Confidential memos reveal attempts to water down Pauley's charter with vague language and loopholes. "Creative integrity must not be compromised," read one memo, signed by a network head. But the groundswell of support for real protections overrode resistance. Independent films, mid-budget features, and even reality TV programs adopted the charter verbatim, refusing to shoot with animals until muzzles, certified handlers, and emergency plans were in place. Meanwhile, NBC executives tracked Abby's disappearance from NCIS with growing concern. The network had banked on Pauley's presence for syndication dollars and merchandising licenses. With season 15's cliffhanger airing without her, rerun revenues dipped 5%. Market analysts speculated that without Abby's kooky lab energy, demographic appeal would slip further. But when offers came calling, cameos on Law and Order, SVU, guest roles in The Good Doctor, Pauley hesitated. She loved her craft, but could she trust an industry that had nearly cost her both health and peace? She declined politely, her agent confirming, "It isn't about money. It's about a safe environment." Then came Broke, a new CBS sitcom crafted specifically for her. She played Mackenzie, a sharp-tongued landlord trying to keep an apartment building afloat. The pilot generated buzz. Fans tuned in at launch, 7 million strong, to see Pauley's trademark wit in a comedic setting. Critics praised her timing, calling her a natural comedy force. Yet as weeks passed, ratings slid. By episode 13, the audience had halved, and the vital 18 to 49 demo plummeted. Network notes cited weak narrative cohesion and lack of ensemble chemistry. Despite promotional tours and upbeat interviews, Broke failed to recapture NCIS magic. Facing cancellation, CBS offered Pauley a multi-year contract to helm a crime procedural spin-off under stricter safety controls. They dangled both profit share and creative input. But the shadow of past trauma lingered. She remembered annealed fear on that fateful soundstage, the simmering dread that hush payments could never erase. So she did the unthinkable. She walked away. On July 7th, 2020, she tweeted simply, "I'm free," in bright rainbow colors. No press release, just those 7 words and a sunburst emoji. Fans erupted in celebration. "She did it," read one trending tweet. "She reclaimed her life." With her departure confirmed, Pauley's inbox flooded once again. Offers to write, direct, and produce. Big-name directors pitched passion projects. Documentaries sought her voice as narrator. Yet she maintained her resolve. Instead of signing deals, she redirected attention to her rescue dogs. Calls with animal shelters replaced table reads. Every story pitch was politely declined. Every publicist gently let down. For Pauley, the next act was neither Hollywood nor headlines. It was a quieter but no less purposeful mission, amplifying the voices of the voiceless creatures she'd long championed. Amid this self-imposed retreat, the world kept watching. Retrospectives on NCIS achievements highlighted Pauley's influence. Panel discussions on women in crime drama cited her role in blending science, style, and warmth. Industry awards committees debated granting her a Lifetime Achievement honor, despite her active retirement. Yet wherever accolades lurked, Pauley remained elusive. She refused gala invitations, opting instead for impromptu visits to local shelters. In those padded kennels, leaning between metal bars, she found solace that no stage lights could offer. Each wagging tail was a reminder that safety and sanctuary were rights, not luxuries. As her public profile dimmed, her impact only grew. Several studios quietly adopted clauses from her charter into their standard shooting contracts. New dog training protocols became industry norms. A feature-length documentary on on-set safety soared among film festival selections, and Pauley served as an uncredited consultant. Social media posts tagged #SafeSets now trended regularly, and other actors began sharing their own incident reports. The culture shift she ignited rippled across entertainment sectors in ways even the biggest studio briefings couldn't anticipate. In transforming corporate policy, she'd shown that true power, once wielded responsibly, need not stay center stage to leave an indelible mark. In the spring of 2021, Pauley awoke one morning to a numbness creeping across her body, a terrifying sensation that no star power or studio contract could erase. What began as a strange tingling in her fingertips quickly spread, leaving half of her face unresponsive and her right arm weightless. Dismissing it at first as simple exhaustion from long nights of charity work, she dialed her doctor only when she realized her speech had grown slurred and her vision blurred. Within 30 minutes, an ambulance whisked her to the ER, where doctors delivered the diagnosis: a massive ischemic stroke. At 53 years old, the woman who had once endured on-set assaults and legal battles now faced a fight for her very ability to speak and move. Walking into that hospital room, Pauley's trademark confidence faltered for the first time in front of medical staff. They feared she wouldn't survive the night. But by her side was Rosie, her rescue pit bull, who refused to leave her side. Staff marveled as the dog, sensing urgency, lunged forward just as blood tests revealed critically low oxygen levels to Pauley's brain. That bark and nudge bought precious minutes. Without Rosie's intervention, the stroke could have been irreversible. When Pauley regained consciousness 2 days later, her first words were lighthearted despite everything. "Dude, seriously?" The room erupted with relief and laughter. Her rehabilitation would span months of speech exercises, physical therapy, and emotional roller coasters. Simple tasks, grasping a pen, sipping from a cup, became victories worth celebrating. Yet in those quiet mornings, as she retraced her steps over words and muscle memory, Pauley deepened her understanding of vulnerability. She saw firsthand what recovery required: patience, resilience, and a network that refused to let her give up. Volunteers from the Pups for Patriots program visited with therapy dogs trained to assist veterans, reminding her that healing extended beyond hospital walls. She felt compelled not only to save animals, but to champion anyone needing a second chance. During therapy breaks, she found herself drawn back to faith, not the rigid dogma of her conservative upbringing, but a spiritual practice born of stillness. She began taking annual retreats at a Benedictine monastery in Big Sur, trading the roar of gurneys and the glare of cameras for the whisper of ocean waves and the scent of incense. There, in candlelit chapels and silent cloisters, she learned contemplative prayer, listening rather than speaking, observing rather than acting. Each morning, she whispered a simple invocation: "Thank you for everything. Forgive me for everything," and felt answers arrive like soft echoes. In that space, trauma unwound, and she discovered that listening extended beyond divine voices to the unspoken needs of the world. By late 2022, Pauley emerged from recovery with a renewed sense of purpose. No longer interested in guest spots or lucrative endorsements, she channeled her energy into two causes at once. First, she partnered with American Humane's Pups for Patriots, expanding their reach by funding 50 new service dogs for veterans. She visited military hospitals, listening to stories of soldiers whose lives were transformed by a loyal canine companion. Second, she quietly joined the board of the Innocence Project, driven by her early criminology roots and her own battles with corporate cover-ups. Together with legal experts, she helped secure exonerations for wrongfully convicted individuals, building on her belief that silence can be deadly, whether on a TV set or in a courtroom. Yet perhaps her most radical act of transparency came posthumously. In a probate filing that leaked to Entertainment Press, Pauley's will revealed she had arranged for every dollar of her $22 million estate to fund no-kill animal shelters and wrongful conviction legal defense. Not a cent was left to family or former coworkers. Instead, she specified that her ashes be divided, half scattered at a beloved dog park, half spread at the shelter where she'd rescued Rosie. The document included a brief letter. For peace, for truth, for those who cannot speak. Fans and critics alike reacted with awe. Here was a woman who had faced down predators, studios, and her own mortality, and in the end, chose compassion over cachet. Her retirement, once seen as a retreat from fame, now shines as a testament to living with purpose. Where rumors once claimed she sought only quiet, we see she craved impact. She exchanged red carpet glamour for kennel corridors, publicity tours for church choirs. The same tenacity that led her to expose dangers on set now fuels her on-the-ground activism for animals and the wrongly accused. She demonstrated that power need not be wielded from center stage, but can resonate in humble acts of service. Her story, woven with contrasts, celebrity versus service, trauma versus healing, silence versus expression, stands as a blueprint. True freedom arises when we amplify the voices of those who cannot speak for themselves. Her voice now echoes in boardrooms rather than on sound stages, where Pauley Perrette's unflinching demand for safety and transparency has become the blueprint for modern production ethics. After leaving NCIS, she refused to vanish into retirement. Instead, she reemerged as a guardian for those still under the glare of studio lights. Wherever animal wranglers, stunt coordinators, or special effects teams gathered, her name was invoked as both warning and inspiration. "Remember Abby's assurance," they'd say, or "you're rewriting history." Studios that once scoffed at personal accountability began posting digital banners of her safety charter and craft services tents, reminding every gaffer and grip that their well-being was non-negotiable. In the 2 years since her dramatic exit and the stroke that nearly claimed her voice, Pauley has logged more miles advocating than she ever did crisscrossing the country for fan conventions. She partnered with American Humane to conduct on-set safety audits for major tentpoles, personally reviewing muzzling protocols and handler certifications before cameras rolled. Directors who once resisted change invited her onto pre-production conference calls, seeking her seal of approval for sequences involving live creatures. The ripple effect stretched to independent features. Micro-budget filmmakers, grateful for her counsel, credited her in end titles and on festival panels as the advocate who made our sets safe. Her influence spread beyond animal safety. Pauley's collaboration with the Screen Actors Guild yielded an updated standard contract clause requiring transparent incident logs, mental health check-ins for trauma-intensive scenes, and a binding safety officer role empowered to halt production without penalty. On drama series, where claustrophobic morgue sets once triggered her distress, she helped design flexible shooting blocks that respected personal limits. No longer would actors endure tight quarters without consent or the right to step away. These policies have since been adopted by major networks, streaming services, and even live theater productions, cementing her legacy as a trailblazer for on-the-ground well-being. Meanwhile, her personal journey into mindfulness and service continues to unfold. Twice yearly, She retreats to a Benedictine monastery in Big Sur, where days begin before dawn with silent prayer, barefoot walks among redwoods, and simple meals in communal halls. Guests, ranging from burned-out camera operators to award-winning directors, apply for a limited number of residency spots, hoping to learn the balance she found between industry demands and inner peace. In that hush, they pore over her handwritten meditation prompts, tracing the evolution from adrenaline-fueled crime labs to quiet cell blocks of contemplative practice. Here, she teaches that real courage is surrendering to stillness. Public attention may have dimmed on her career, but her activism blazes brighter than any spotlight. In early 2023, her office quietly funded legal teams for 20 wrongfully convicted clients of the Innocence Project, reconnecting her early criminology passion with her matured compassion. She organized a grassroots fundraising gala without cameras or celebrity hosts, filling a community center with former exonerees sharing their stories. Attendees included forensic scientists, journalists, and formerly incarcerated advocates. Together, they forged a network designed to prevent future miscarriages of justice. As she spoke of evidence buried in basements and the power of unflinching inquiry, she channeled the same tenacity that once made Abby Ciuto a household name. Social media, now a tool in her hands rather than a trap, amplifies her message without pandering to clickbait. Instead of curated glamour shots, Pauley posts candid reflections, a dawn mist in Big Sur, the paw print of a rescued terrier named Luna, or a snapped pin from her notebook as she drafts safety amendments. Each post closes with a call to action that never sounds canned. Did your set take safety seriously this week? Tag them and ask why. Her followers, members of an informal safety vigilante network, retweet production audits, support union petitions, and share headlines when a blockbuster implements her protocols. The result, a decentralized movement that refuses to rest. Yet despite her formidable achievements, Pauley remains characteristically grounded. She shuns glamour photos and